I'm Carla Reeves, and this is Differently. Whether you feel stuck in survival, navigating a change, or seeking more for your life, may this podcast be your weekly nudge to take a risk, to build a life that is uniquely bold, authentic, and in alignment with your deepest values. After a decade of coaching individuals from corporate leaders to creative artists to multi-million-dollar CEOs, I'm convinced we are far closer than we realize to what we deeply desire, and it's a willingness to do differently that can change everything. Finding success as an entrepreneur takes a warrior spirit. Our guest today shares 8 ways to call upon your warrior spirit to bring about resilience, momentum, and fulfillment as a business owner. Melissa Goodwin joins me today to share her story. During a very dark and scary time in her life, she says a light went on that led her on a path to starting her very own business. For anyone who is an entrepreneur, you know it takes a warrior spirit. And for anyone thinking about taking the leap, let Melissa's story inspire you to go for it. Today, Melissa owns and operates her very own copywriting business, Melissa Goodwin Copy. She specializes in authentic sales copy like sales pages, email sequences, and digital lead magnets for women entrepreneurs. She uses strategic copywriting techniques and authentic emotion to write copy that resonates with her clients' ideal clients, attracting them like bees to the blossom, she says. Get ready to hear all the details of her journey, along with 8 ways that you can step into your warrior spirit as an entrepreneur. Hi, Melissa. Welcome to Differently.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you. This was kind of an inspired invitation because of a connection you and I had through email, which we'll share more about in just a minute. But I'm excited for the listeners to meet you and learn more about what you do. And you and I share kind of a special connection. We have all these interconnections that we were just talking about. And you piloted Time Camp, which I did with Kathy Deco. And if you guys listening want to go back to old episodes, Kathy and I did a whole series on Time Camp. But Kathy introduced me to Melissa, and you were such a integral part of that experience in helping us really develop that. And today I'm inviting you in this conversation so that you and I can dive into this idea of entrepreneurship takes a warrior spirit. And so you mentioned, Melissa, that during that time camp that you had some aha that kind of led you on a path in your business. And I would love for you to share that with the listeners.
Yes, I will never forget it. I joined that little beta test where I met all you wonderful people at a time in my life where I was completely and totally unmoored. I had just come through all kinds of massive life changes where everything that I had identified as being or doing was kind of gone at that point. Specifically, I had begun my copywriting journey with this little tiny company, like literally me and another person. And she taught me the joys of marketing, not as, sales, which I would never have wanted to do, but simply as a way of using my writing skills to invite people to work with other clients and to just be an agent for change and good for other people. I thought, oh, I really like this. This fits me. And then through the pandemic, that business folded. And so I had all kinds of stuff that had disappeared in my life. And I was speaking with people, kind of wistfully saying, oh, I'm so bummed out that I don't have this anymore in my life. And people were asking me what I did. And I was talking about copywriting for small business and helping businesses attract customers like bees to the blossom, looking at marketing in those ways that felt good. And people started saying, well, I need that. like I could use that.
Mm.
And it was the first time in my life where it occurred to me, bing, I can actually do a business on my own for myself. And I haven't looked back since.
That's amazing. I think sometimes those things that we're so good at that come naturally to us, we often don't see the value in what that is because it comes so naturally and you're good at it. Like I experienced your writing with the writing you did around time camp, and I can vouch for that. But it's sometimes we don't see it in ourselves. And I think that is one of the greatest gifts when someone else, either asks that question that has you realize that there's value in what you do, or someone expresses and shares, like, I see this in you, you're good at this. And it kind of gives you permission to stretch into that more fully. And it sounds like that's what happened for you.
It did. And not only that, but it helped me see that I didn't need to be doing things just in conjunction with someone else. I had everything that I needed. I was fully sourced. I could do this thing and I could do it on my own. And I didn't have to wait around to get another job elsewhere or, play a supporting role in another business. I could actually do this thing on my own. And that was something that had never occurred to me before.
That's so beautiful. For someone who maybe is in that listening, that's in that place of that you were, is there anything looking back, like, is there any advice on this side of it that you would go back and give your former self at that time?
I think that it all literally all started with that one conversation that we all had. And then from there, I was able to put pieces in place to support this new idea. So I had someone to help me, with the business mindset part of it. And I had a place to go to really up level my skills. And so for me, it was just putting those pieces together to lay a foundation from which I could grow comfortably and feel like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. It's good.
Yeah, so great. So great. So tell us a little bit more deeply about the work the business you've created and the work you're doing today.
So I own my own little copywriting business and I'm specializing in launch copy. So I work with people who have some way to help others on the internet. So it could be coaches or course creators or anybody that has an online program where they help other people. And my job is to create sales pages and emails and freebies, lead magnets, that kind of thing. And what I do is I write to attract and I write emotional copy that resonates with people so that it is the total opposite of pushy and salesy. And it's just helping business owners put themselves out there so that they can help more people. And I love that part of it. At the beginning of my career, I did all kinds of things. I did the blogs and all different kinds of stuff. But I've really honed in on helping creators get their content out and then building their businesses from there. So that's what I'm doing.
I love that. And it sounds like such an authentic way. I know in my business, I struggled for a lot of years in the beginning for the same reason you did. Like I never wanted to be pushy or salesy, and I just like that just didn't fit at all. And I realized that I wasn't really opening the door fully for people to like take a peek inside. Like, is this something I want to do or something I need? Because I was so afraid of that. And until I really shift that in my own mind, like, this is just sharing what I do, right? It's opening the door to say, hey, this is what's available. Is this a fit for you? And giving people complete freedom to choose. And I love that you're helping people find that authentic and meaningful way of sharing the incredible work that they're doing.
That is exactly it. It's not, here's what I do and you should buy it and doors are closing and all of that stuff. It's simply, here's how I can help you. And if I do my job well, I lay out, and there's an alchemy of science and art where if I lay everything out appropriately to where it resonates with other people, then there's absolutely no push or sales energy at all. It's simply an invitation, and it just is a beautiful thing.
So good. So tell us how long have you been in this business now, and give us a sense of your life, like the chapter of life that you're in personally.
Well, I've had my own business now for almost 3 years. I've been copywriting for almost 6 years altogether. And all of this came together at a time, like as I referenced before, where I was totally unmoored, meaning I just had my 60th birthday. Who finds their life's passion and creates a business in their late 50s? This girl does. And
That is,
I had
I love that. That is differently. It's so good.
Exactly. Yes. And I just wasn't in that headspace at all. In my young adulthood, I was a teacher and I loved that. And then I got the incredible gift of being a stay-at-home mom for several years. And I dove into all of that. That was the best gig ever. Found volunteering and just being in school and dog rescue and all this stuff. And then as life goes, I kind of flitted from this thing to that thing. And by the time I was in my 50s, I began to be a caretaker for my elderly mom who had had a stroke. And I was working in our family business. My rescue work had folded during the pandemic, so I didn't have that. And suddenly all of that went away. My mother died. The rescue folded, our business folded, everything was gone. And the little copywriting business I was doing with the other person also folded during the pandemic. So I was like, okay, what now? And so in my late 50s, I thought, why not? It's my time. I can do this. And I never thought about those things before, and all of that was really difficult to go through, but it was those little stepping stones that created the path to where I am now. And I miss a lot of what was, but I'm so grateful to be here with what is.
Oh, I just acknowledge your courage to navigate that and to turn that into something beautiful. I talk a lot on this podcast about lifepreneurship and innovating in our everyday life, and my mission is really to empower people. Like, you don't ever have to feel at the mercy of your circumstances, that you can leverage these innate abilities to ongoingly create your life, right? Out of ashes, you can create something beautiful. And your story is very much that. So let's transition into this email exchange you and I had. So I sent out a e-note on happiness takes a warrior spirit, I think back in April, and actually did a podcast on it. If anybody wants to go back, I think it was April 20th, called Happiness Takes a Warrior Spirit. And you reached out to me. And so I would love you to tell that story of what happened.
Well, I was sitting here and reading that, and the phrase warrior spirit, it kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, that's what you've been having to do all this time through all the loss that I experienced. It was surviving and then getting to the point where I'm actually okay with this, and I'm doing this thing. And I thought, yeah, that warrior spirit really resonates with me. And so I started thinking, it was quite obvious when you experience a lot of loss, the warrior spirit you have to call upon in order to get through it. But then I started thinking, what kind of warrior spirit am I having to call upon today to build this business that I've got started? And that's what made me think. I took each of your little points and I thought, if I look at it through the lens of entrepreneurship, where's my warrior spirit showing up? And that's what I sent to you.
I loved that. That made me so happy that day that, something that I had written inspired you to take this completely different slant on it. And I really wanted you to share those tips with the Differently listeners because I know they will benefit from them. And so let's dive into, so Melissa sent me this, the warrior spirit for women entrepreneurs, but I think it applies for men too. And yeah, let's just talk about those. So the number one on the list was call out the lies of the mind. So Melissa, how has this applied for you and maybe those that you work with?
Well, definitely for me, especially in the beginning and still to this day. I mean, it happens on a daily basis that your mind says things to you that you don't. I am learning now at this ripe old age that I don't really have to pay attention to things like, I'm never going to get this business going the way I want to, or marketing myself, putting myself out there is so hard. It's such a struggle. And when I realized you said call out the lies of the mind, that's exactly what I was doing. I realized that this brain activity that's going on, feeding me these thoughts that aren't helpful to me, I realized these are thoughts. They are not facts. And I can decide to turn away from that and towards something more positive. So that was calling out the lies of the mind. And that happens on the daily.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Yes, it is a daily practice. And I notice, I want people to know, I think that that's so important to know because I often notice with my clients and even with myself that, gosh, I should be over this, or this shouldn't be happening this way anymore. I shouldn't be dealing with this noise in my head. Like I've worked on this for a long time and a lot of years. And it, my experience is it doesn't go away. We get better equipped, like you're talking about, as to dealing with it and changing our relationship to it, right? And letting it, instead of it being a bully, we get to lead. The voice in our head doesn't get to lead. And so I think this is so important. And that's really what inspired me to write that article, is that having a great life, building a business, it takes a warrior spirit. It really does. You have to be relentless in the pursuit of that. And it's okay that you have to practice every day. It's normal. It's like brushing your teeth or working out, right? It just becomes part of your daily routine. So I love that.
Yes, I have a spiritual mentor who gave me something that I use when I recognize those weird thoughts, that those brain firings that aren't doing me any good. He told me, look at those and say, aren't you adorable? Now go away.
I
And
love
so
that.
that's very helpful.
Yes, 100%. A teacher that I once was practicing with said something similar. Like he just expects that those voices are going to show up, especially if he's doing something big or on the verge of a big breakthrough in his business. And he's kind of like, "What took you so long? I was waiting for you." And it just kind of lightens it and brings humor around it. So amazing. So number 2, turn to healthy routines. So speak to us a little bit about that.
So for me, turn to healthy routines as an entrepreneur means turning to routines that support your business. So things that you can rely on, you can replicate from day to day, where you're managing your tasks in a way that keeps you calm and centered rather than, oh my gosh, what do I have to do? My list is too big, all that stuff. I've kind of created, and they're not super sophisticated routines, but just having something that I do, breaking tasks down into chunks and doing these things a little at a time keeps me on track and calm. And when something big and hairy comes up, then I no longer have to freak out about it. I just do these routines that I know will help sustain me through it.
Can you share a couple of the routines with us? I'm so curious because I love thinking about this from a entrepreneurial standpoint. Like, what are your healthy routines in your business?
I I tackle the things that I don't love to do at the times when I have the most energy. So doing social media is not my favorite. So I try to do that ahead of the game, and I do it, regularly and when I'm at the most energetic self, so that I don't have to pull on deep reserves to get it done because I don't enjoy it as much as I do other things. Um, and there's also something that you taught me, which is not to manage time, but to manage choices.
Hmm.
And that has helped me so much. I choose how I'm going to lay out my day. And it's roughly a similar thing from day to day. And that just takes all the guesswork out of it. And I don't have to, have the stress of managing time. It's simply my choice to do this here and that there.
Those are great. I love those. Another one that just came to my mind as you were talking is a lot of times clients they schedule their calls just literally back to back. And so creating some space between calls, I know for myself, that is a healthy routine in my business so that I can take care of my energy and have that buffer so that I'm not running from thing to thing or then end up showing up late and all of those things. There's a huge ripple impact. And so you doing like tackling the hardest things first or those things that you don't love to do, what is the impact of that on your mindset and energy the rest of the day? Because it has to have a big impact, I would think.
It does. As you can imagine, it's like crossing something off the list that you don't want to dwell on. It's a satisfying feeling, and you feel free to now get to the juicy stuff. I've got that out of the way. It's like I used to tell my daughter when she was little, do the things that you have to do so that you can do the things that you want to do. And it's the
Mm,
same thing for me as, an older woman entrepreneur. The same principles apply.
beautiful. So number 3 is take the next right action. What does that look like for you?
Yes. So when you said take the next right action, regardless of if you feel like it or not, that got me thinking that, of course, every day there are things that we do that we don't really love to do. And it got me thinking that, just because you have this task on your list doesn't mean it always has to be you that does it. And that got me thinking about this whole idea of delegation. And, if you've got something that nags at you on the daily that really you're not good at, you're not comfortable with, it doesn't light you up, maybe the next right action is actually delegating it to somebody else, hiring somebody else to help you with it, or even removing it from your list altogether and asking yourself, do I really need to do this? And so the next right action just might be helping yourself out with a little help.
Such good advice. And a lot of times it's like, I know in myself, I can get overwhelmed thinking about all the things I have to do, but really all I need to do is take that next right action. And I know from watching people in the work I do that those consistent actions that are aligned with your bigger picture of what you want, those little movements over time create a lot of momentum and a lot of traction. And you lift your head and you're like, wow, I did all that. So good.
Yes, definitely habit stacking comes in there where, if you just keep chipping away, and before you know it, turn around and think, oh, I'm cool, I'm ready, I'm done.
Yes. So, number 4, talk gently to yourself. So vital, so important. How has that played a role in your life
I
in
think that
business?
relates a lot to the part about recognizing that not everything your brain says is something you need to pay attention to. It's not always fact. And I think this is side B of that, and that is give yourself credit for showing up and lean on affirmations or quotes, journaling, things like that that pull you forward towards your goals. I'm kind of a queen of Post-it notes, and I've got things on around me that I can see. And it's those times when things are getting a little uncomfortable, and I'll reread that because it's right in front of me and I can see it. And it just causes my shoulders to drop an inch and I can breathe a little easier.
Okay, so number 5, shift your focus. Why is this important for entrepreneurship?
This one was a big one for me because when thinking about this in terms of my business, sometimes you are so close and so up in it that you really can't see clearly. You can't see the forest for the trees. You're so close that all you see is what's not getting done and all of the shoulds that you say to yourself that are barking in your brain. And when those times happen to me, I try to shift my focus to remembering why I'm doing this in the first place. What is my why? And for me, my why is I love being of service. I love helping other people. I'm a nurturer with a capital N. And when I see my clients grow and thrive because of what I'm doing, it just lights me up like nothing else. So that puts all of that other little niggly stuff that's going on in the brain in perspective. It's a shift in focus that helps me move forward.
I think this is so important when we think about having a warrior spirit and in entrepreneurship. For myself, like knowing my why is what has carried me through so many things, right? Because entrepreneurship is up and down. And there have been times where I just was like ready to throw in the towel and forget all of it. And it is the why that I come back to over and over again. And I think that could probably fall under a healthy habit for your business too, is revisiting your why on the regular to remember and kind of energize yourself, because as the leader of your business, you've got to stay connected to that. And that energy, gets infused in everything that you do. And so remembering that is really critical and can really propel you forward and keep you going even when the fruits of your labor aren't showing, or you don't have the harvest yet, you don't have the blossoms yet. That's what keeps me going.
Oh yeah. And another little tip is to be okay with rereading maybe some kudos or testimonials or attaboys or attagirls that you've received. I try not to be the full-fledged people pleaser that I truly am, but it makes me feel good to revisit some of the successes. And when I read, people's thoughts about how they were able to do something after I worked with them that they weren't able to do before, it just gives you that lift you need to keep flapping those wings.
100%. I have a coach who, wanted me to create like a inventory journal of just the things that you have done, the courageous things that you've done, the things that you've overcome, the successes. Because on those days where you just feel like, everything sucks, you're not good at what you do, the sky is falling. You need things like that to pick you up so you can keep going in this relentless pursuit for, what your heart is here to do and your purpose. So beautiful. Okay. So number 6, stop the spiral. This is a huge one. So tell us why this is so critical.
This is part of life. When you get on the wrong track and it just seems easy to slide down into areas that you don't really want to go. So remembering your why is key here. And remembering that there's a bigger purpose, that you're just not, people don't create businesses just to make money. That's part of it, and that's a necessary part of it. But leaning into your purpose and focusing on these things that fill you up. And sometimes when I get into one of those spirals, I have to literally sometimes say out loud, stop, just stop. And I get up and I go do things outside of business that fill me up. For me, it's, I love my dog. I'll take her for a walk. I love to be out in nature. There are lots of really great grounding exercises that I've learned. And these are just things that take you away from a fraught situation, kind of fill up your tank a little bit with something that's joyful, music, turn on some Red Hot Chili Peppers, and you can't stay stuck in that spiral. These are the things that work for me. And it's just a way to kind of reset.
Change the energy. It's so true. And even with the mindset, right? Like sometimes our mind can just want to take us down that spiral. And you can start the day feeling great. And then a half hour later, you feel like crap and you're like, and nothing has changed, only this dialogue that spiraled in your mind, right? So I love your ideas for getting out of your head, getting out of any negativity to change up the energy, because that really is all it takes. And that's another healthy business habit, for being in entrepreneurship, is we have to take responsibility, not only for all the business side of things that we're doing and the service we're delivering, but also our own well-being as an entrepreneur, because that is fueling everything.
And part of the perks of being an entrepreneur, self-employed, is that I have the power of choice. I come back to this all the time. It's not, I have to do this and I have to do that. It's, I'm choosing to do this. And if I'm in a place where, hey, I'm in the weeds, I can also choose to do something different. And I can work in a different environment. I can close the laptop and I can walk away for a while. That's super cool. If I'm in a business, in an office somewhere, I don't always have those opportunities. So I have that blessing as an entrepreneur, and believe me, I use it when I need it.
Yeah, so true. Okay, number 7, stand up. Tell us what this means.
I think for me, this means showing up for your clients with your most authentic self. And that means sometimes taking time off for some self-care. This is a hard one for me because I am kind of a perfectionist at times. I'm definitely, as I said, a nurturer. I do seek approval, so I want to do the very best that I can for my clients. But that old phrase, you cannot pour from an empty cup, rolls around in my head when I'm feeling depleted and I'm seeing that my energy, just my headspace, my energy isn't where it needs to be. And so I've taught myself to not feel guilty about taking time to replenish that cup, because truly the quality of my work depends on how I am inside my heart, inside my head. And if I'm coming from a full place, I can give so much more.
I talk about this a lot with clients and just people in general, because I think there's this idea that taking care of ourselves is selfish. And I actually believe it's one of the most generous things that we can do, because, like you said, when your tank is full, you have more to give. You have more ability to serve people. You have more ability to stand up and show up, for your business and your life. And I think it's the most generous thing you can do. Think about just in your home, when you as a mom are, feeling at your best or on the up and up, that energy impacts everybody in the house, right?
It's true. And, my mom was a great role model for me in the work till you've got nothing left to give
Mhm.
mentality. And I saw it as a huge virtue in her. And that's one of the things that I recognize now as an adult, thinking back, her as a 60-year-old mother and me as a 60-year-old mother, and the differences that society allows us to have now, where people are recognizing that taking care of yourself is, like you said, an act of generosity. To me, when I was a kid, I looked at her and her just go, go, go until you're completely depleted. I thought that was being generous. And in her way, it was, because that's
Mhm.
all she knew. And society fed that in her. But now I think we're smarter. At least I hope I'm smarter. And I see that it's really important, if I'm going to give my best self, to be my best self.
Yeah, and redefining it for you, like that may have worked for your mom, right? And I've had to do that in my own life too. I've had to redefine what that means because I used to do the same thing. Go, go, go till you crash and then like recover. And I just, decided at some point that I wanted to find my own natural rhythm that allowed me to thrive and kind of operate at my best. And I think we all have to kind of take that journey on our own to figure out what that looks like and means. Um, so good. Okay. So the last one, take a new inventory. What does this mean for entrepreneurs and for you specifically?
For me, this one was about taking stock of, okay, this is all the stuff that I do, and then evaluating them as to what is the stuff that's really moving the needle in my business, and taking stock about things that, really aren't making that much of a difference, and which of these things are really lighting me up, and which of these things would I really rather not do if I could. And that's what I did when I decided to make a more intense focus in my business on being a conversion copywriter, sales copywriter, helping people with their launches, because the blog slog is real. And although I'm a writer at heart and I love doing it, that was not my favorite. And I found, it's a worthwhile thing. It's a valuable thing, but it's really not lighting me up. So I let go of it and I made a shift in my focus. And so now I'm doing things that make the biggest impact for my clients. And they also coincide with the things that I love to do. So I feel much more secure and comfortable and just happier on the day to day.
I think that could be another healthy habit in our business, right? Is like doing a quarterly inventory of, do I need to keep doing this? Is this working? Is this moving the needle like you're talking about? I think I want to incorporate that into, I do that a lot in life in general, but specific to business, I think that could be so helpful.
Yeah, I think
So,
that it's a great idea to do that like quarterly, because I think that happens when you get really bogged down. So it would be a good idea not to wait until you're really bogged down and depleted. You do it on a regular basis and refine on the regular. It's just going to make life so much easier.
yes, couldn't agree more. So, those are your 8 tips on a warrior spirit for entrepreneurship. And it really does require that. And I thank you for being someone who is actively practicing, right? Creating this, innovating in your own life and in your business, and inspiring us today with these ideas that you've seen and been practicing in your own life and business. So tell us what you are most excited about or inspired about, and then also let us know where people can find out more about the incredible work that you're doing.
Well, thank you. And I just want to express my gratitude for the inspiration that you have given me, because truly the emails that you send, I read faithfully and take to heart, and I always find super inspiring. So thank you.
That means a lot.
I am super excited. I'm nearly finished with a launch certification so that I can put a little stamp on the end of my name. It just up-leveled my skills and makes me really excited for the big changes that I can make for people. So you can find me online at melissagoodwincopy.com.
Great. So everyone, be sure to check out what she's doing. You are such a gem. I'm so grateful that we connected through Kathy. Shout out to Kathy Deco. I'm so grateful that she connected us, and I appreciate all the great work that you are doing. And I thank you so much for joining me in this conversation today.
I'm blessed to do it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode of Differently. I hope it stirred your thinking, and I invite you to take one inspired action from something that stood out to you. If you want to hear more conversations like this, be sure to hit follow on your favorite podcast app. And if this episode could impact someone you know, please help us spread the word and pass it along. Remember, new episodes drop weekly. See you next week.